say that people with autism don't have empathy. I think just like everybody else, they have different degrees of it. I know people who aren't on the spectrum that aren't very empathic. But I'm sure that there is some deficit. Let's talk a little bit about empathy. My definition of empathy is perspective taking with feelings. I don't know how accurate that is. Do you think of empathy that same way?
I don't.
Okay, tell me how you...
Perspective taking with feelings could be the same thing as just saying you can identify someone else's emotions.
Okay,
to me.
So when empathy you think of empathy, what do you think?
Is a further step to me. It's not just recognizing and knowing what others' emotions are or predicting them and things like that, but it's actually feeling what they're feeling when they're feeling it.
Okay.
So when someone is, crying or something on the news because they just lost their daughter or something like that, and you start crying, you actually feel sad.
Okay.
Whereas I would say like sympathy would be like you feel bad for them.
Okay.
But you don't feel sad.
All right.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. But I think that we probably want a measure of both sympathy and empathy to be successful in life. And to have good relationships in life. And I think all of us that have kids on the spectrum or friends on the spectrum, they want to be in good relationships. That's something that's important to most of them. Maslow's hierarchy of needs suggests that we all need other people at some point. So can we teach sympathy and can we teach empathy?
So there hasn't been any research yet, at least not applied behavior analytic research, trying to teach those things exactly. There's been stuff where they call it teaching empathic responding.
Okay.
But it's like someone hurts themselves and then the child says, "Oh, are you okay?"
Okay.
Right? I think we could do that again. It's one of those things where you teach a rule. Like if you see someone get hurt, run over and see if they're okay, if they need help. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that they're having sympathy or empathy at that point, I think.
But it's the appropriate response, and maybe that's the thing that we're all wanting. It's depicted so many times on television because I think it's a real thing that we've all had the moment with an individual who's on the autism spectrum where they have what we consider an inappropriate response to someone else's pain or anguish, that somebody hurts themselves and they're laughing,
right?
Or that they've done something that has caused pain to somebody and there's a non-reaction to it.
Yeah.
And it's frustrating. It's hard. It hurts our feelings because we want to know that they care about how we feel.
Right.
That's pretty selfish of us.
So there have been some studies showing that kids have been taught those kind of empathic statements.
Okay.
But whether or not they're feeling what that person's feeling or even feeling bad about it is a whole different situation. So actually, this is an area that Angela Persicki, I know she used to come on the show, is doing her dissertation on.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
So, and it's pretty cool. The idea behind it is that she has this hypothesis that people are more empathic to people that they share similarities with. So you can actually relate better to that person, and then empathy is more likely.
It's interesting. I've had that conversation with her, but about bullying.
Oh,
talking about how you're less likely to bully someone if you feel that you have a shared interest with them, which I thought was very astute.
Yeah.
It's much harder to be mean to someone if you feel a connection with them.
Yeah.
But I guess the flip is true too. You're more likely to be sympathetic and empathetic if you feel that you have a connection.
So if you see a stranger who just lost a loved one or something, you might think like, oh, that's so sad or whatever. It must be horrible to go through that or something. But then if you then find out that they went to the same high school as you and their daughter who died or something is the exact same age as yours and maybe they share a name, like things like that, all of a sudden I think the likelihood of the empathy is possibly
it's much
increased.
closer to home.
At least that's what the hypothesis is, and that's what she'll be testing.
Wonderful.
And then if you think about it, with us being in war and things like that, a lot of what I think helps people to be able to kill others is thinking about how they're totally different.
Yes.
So it's the opposite.
The opposite. Interesting. And we talk about these things and it has such an effect on an individual and such an effect on a family. But quite honestly, when you look at it that way, it has much more, it has a global impact. That if we are to look at people and see the similarities instead of the differences, maybe we would be more peaceful